Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Anna Johnson, and I'm so thankful that you joined us. We're going to talk a little bit about confirmation options for the fall. I know we've got a couple questions already, especially asking about what digital resources we have. So I just wanted to share these with you in a quick video. We'll get right into it because I want to be respectful of your time. So we'll have three main sections today. First, I want to give you a brief overview of what digital resources are already available to you. Some of these are free and some of these are paid, so I'm going to show you the difference to help you make a decision about what is best for your church. Second, I have three different options if you want to host a confirmation class kind of in a virtual or digital environment this year. I know it's going to depend on your geography and the number of cases in your area, but want to give you as many options as possible. We'll have kind of an easy, a medium, and a hard option depending on your tech needs and your desire to customize your digital confirmation program. And then the last thing I'll do very briefly is I'll show you a resource list that has all the important websites that you're going to need for confirmation in the fall. So with that, here's an overview of the different digital resources we have available from CPH. So let's start with the free things. First thing I'd encourage you to bookmark is the Catechism online. This is not the Catechism with explanation, but if you're using some of the options we talk about later, like something like Google Classroom, it would be great to link to the Catechism, the digital version online. If you want the Catechism with explanation, that is paid, but it would be very easy to encourage your families to download that as an app and use it if you're in a digital learning environment. The second thing, the most important thing I want to talk about is the Digital Resource Center. So I know many of you have been using the digital resources that came with our new Enduring Faith confirmation, but since it's a digital environment, something new, I do want to highlight just a few of the things that might be a little bit underutilized in a normal situation, but I think are going to be really helpful for moving to a digital learning environment for confirmation. So just give me a minute here. I'm going to pull over the Digital Resource Center on my screen. So you can get here by going to cph.org/30lesson, or if you're using the 60-lesson catechism study, you can just do cph.org/60lesson, very easy. And within this Digital Resource Center, it's completely free. There's two main options. There are the general resources, and then there are unit and lesson specific resources. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit on both of those today. So let's start with the general resources. There are three things in the general resources. First thing is sermon notes. I know that many of you already ask for sermon notes, and I know in my experience, each church has had a little bit of a different way of doing it. But if you need a template, here is one you can just pick up and use and share with your confirmation families. The second thing is a KWL chart, and that stands for what I know, what I want to learn, and what I've learned. And one of my main points in this presentation today is because you're going to be in a digital learning environment, it's going to be really important to have kind of those pre-class check-ins with your students and the post-class check-ins to help assess how the learning went online. And this KWL chart is something that is really important and could help you with this. So this is meant to be designed on a unit basis. So if you're starting out a unit on baptism, maybe before that first lesson, you send this chart to the kids and families and ask them to fill out, what do they know about baptism? What are their questions? And what do they think they have learned so far? This will help you to really focus your digital teaching time and make sure it's focused on the questions kids have, or maybe even some misunderstandings they have. I also want to say, although this is kind of meant to be designed on a unit level, I definitely think you could also use this on a lesson level, depending on your church's situation. And then the third thing I want to point out is kind of similar in that you can use it before class and after class, but it's a consider your confirmation page. And this is something you can give to the students to help them kind of assess themselves and how they're doing in confirmation. You can see there's a section for memory work and understanding the lesson. I think these will be really important because I know at the end of last year, my own church, we started doing confirmation online. And as a teacher, I noticed that it was a little bit harder for me to gauge how students were grasping the material online. just because there were so many different screens. I couldn't see everybody's body language. It was kind of hard with the kids talking over at times. So I think something like this, Consider Your Confirmation Page, will really help you as the teacher to have that kind of one-on-one feedback with your students before and after class. And then the other section I really like here is the My Responsibilities section. It's about homework, participation, and following expectations. And I know for me as a teacher, what matters more is that those things are kind of in the forefront of the kid's mind as much as the answer they actually check on those things. So doing something like this before and after each class can really help you gauge where you need to focus your next lesson, especially when you're not getting kind of that real-time feedback that you might get when you're in the classroom. So these general resources, please, if you haven't checked them out, I would really encourage you to. I think they'll really help you and your families in the digital learning environment. Next, just want to do a brief overview of what is in the lesson modules. Each lesson module has an overview video for that lesson and then audio files, one for each day of the week. So these are designed to be used kind of before class, which works out really well if you're encouraging the families to do a little bit more at home before they get to that virtual class session. It can help the families learn together, which is always a good thing. And then at the end of these, there are all sorts of different activities. I want to highlight just one. This journal lesson for lesson 1 also gives you another option for a daily activity where students would read a Bible verse and then answer a question each day of the week. So when you're not seeing them as much, either in church midweek or on Sundays, something like a connection journal, whether it's a PDF like this, or maybe you even turn it into a form online, I think could really help you to stay connected with your students throughout the week and throughout the year. There's also different types of activities. So another option you might want to do is ask students and families to complete one of these activities before they go to class, and that can serve kind of as a springboard for your discussions about the confirmation that week. So again, this is Digital Resource Center. It's free. There's no login required. It works best when you're using it, of course, with one of these teacher and student books. But if you just want to check it out, I really encourage you to do so. And then another thing I want to show you guys that we just prepared for this year is something called a Quizlet. And this is a way you can help the students practice their memory work during the week. So you just go to quizlet.com/ConcordiaPub. And then it has all these online learning activities. So we've set up some for each of the 6 chief parts of the Catechism. And you can see students can practice with flashcards. It has the meanings of the commandments and the commandments just pulled directly from that catechism.cph.org slide. There's other types of activities too. You can see that this is a matching activity. And this would be really good if you're having memory during the week to share this resource with families to help them actually practice those things. I know that my students sometimes have a hard time remembering their memory work or practicing during the day. So making a fun little activity out of this could really help them grasp their learning. That's quizlet.com/ConcordiaPub, and I'll share that at the end of the session. So those are the free resources we have. Like I said, there are also some paid resources, but I do want to explain the best way to use those as well. So like I said, if you go to the App Store, either on iOS or Google Play, you can download the Catechism app, and then there's an offer for an in-app purchase for the explanation. So if you wanted to use a digital version of the Catechism instead of just buying the regular catechisms, definitely check that out. We also have PDFs of the leader guides available, and then also all of this material is available for purchase through our CPH Faith Courses online learning platform. The one thing I would add with these last two things is these are really designed to be used for the teacher. They're meant for the teacher to log in and help you organize your resources. If you want to do a screen share during Zoom, these would be really great, but they're not meant really to be shared with the students. We're still encouraging the students to use their workbook to have that time to work through the lessons themselves. So more on that right now. We're going to jump right into our 3 different options we're recommending for how to actually host the confirmation class this fall. So option 1 is probably closest to what you would do in a normal class. So what we would encourage is that you would email the link for the week, the video, audio, and then some sort of introductory question that you want students to be thinking about before class. Maybe it's that KWL chart, or consider your confirmation, or maybe you have your own kind of journal activity. Just something kind of to get their mind rolling on whatever the topic is going to be. Then at your normal time, you would have confirmation. You set up some type of virtual meeting. You go through the lesson you teach online just as you would in person, and students would actually complete their workbooks during the class time. And then the last added thing, as we talked about, is we're recommending some type of exit ticket, something where the student's communicating with you about how the learning went online. This communication is going to be extra important when you're in that digital learning environment, and it can help start your intro activity for the next week as well. The one kind of disadvantage to this model is because you're teaching the whole lesson, it will probably take more time. I know my class, we usually meet for an hour and a half on Wednesdays, and yet often those free video conferencing softwares are only about 30 or 40 minutes on the free version. And I know sometimes there's concerns with security and things with those. So if you are using this option, just be aware you might have to pay, or you might have to set up multiple sessions in one night in order to do it. The second option I really like is more of a flipped classroom option. So this would be something where the students actually complete the workbooks and the other activities at home before class, and then you use your class time to dig deep into the questions they have and use that to be more focused on them, or even maybe on the real life applications to whatever lesson you're doing. Now, this is a great way to get families involved in your confirmation curriculum. However, if your families are like my families at church, everybody's in a different spot. Some families, they're going to fill in that workbook. They're going to do it diligently every week. And some families struggle for whatever reason to get that work done at home. So if you do this flipped classroom model, it'll be really important to have the families buy in, because they're going to be responsible for watching a video, the audio, completing the workbook lesson before they get to class. So during your actual class time, it might end up being a little bit shorter, but you can dive deep into, maybe there was a certain section in the workbook that everybody struggled with. You could focus just on that section. Maybe you could go over the real life questions you have. I know my students this past year, they had a ton of questions and we never had enough time for all of them. So this flipped classroom would be really good if you have a very inquisitive group of students. And then like with the first option, I would still recommend doing some sort of exit ticket for students as they're leaving class, so that you can see how the learning is actually taking effect in their brains, and so you can help prepare for the next class. Maybe you need to stay on that issue for the next class, or maybe they're ready to move on. Some sort of ticket like that and a post-lesson activity is going to be really important. The third option is the most complicated option, but this would be to use something like Google Classroom and build your own confirmation unit. I know that sounds intimidating, and I could probably do a whole video just on Google Classroom, but the advantage to this is that you could use different types of materials. So say if you wanted to record your own teaching videos, you could put those into Google Classroom right before they go to class, and you could have more of a hybrid between what CPH provides and what your church provides. So sorry, I keep looking over here. I'm going to pull up my example Google Classroom just so you can see kind of what I'm talking about. So this is one way you could organize a Google Classroom. So I have general resources up here. For my purposes, I'm using these as helpful links. So I have a link up here to the Quizlets. I have a link to the online catechism. I even have a Google form. I know my confirmation class does confirmation essays. You could have your students submit their essays through here, or if you're having them do that workbook first method, you could even have them snap a picture of it and send it to you to show that they've done their work for the week. Then I have the information broken up into modules. So I have a link to the CPH materials. I have the journal questions, which I turned into a Google form. This would be really great if you have your own question. Maybe you don't want to do one for each day. Maybe you want to do something that's like one per week that they think really deeply about. And then you could see their answers before class. You can even assign due dates on there, and Google will send automatic reminders to the parents, which is really nice. And then you could also create your own quizzes and assignments in here. So I have an example. I know with my class, we often ask them to write out the commandments and meanings. I'm sure you do something very similar. They could do this all online, and then you could, again, spend your class time being more focused. You could do this a number of different ways. You can add different modules very easily. You just could pick one of these, and you can add a link to a YouTube video, anything like that. Probably could spend a lot more time talking about Google Classroom. So if this is something most of you guys are interested in, let me know in the comments, and then we'll do another video that's just about Google Classroom. But for our purposes today, I did want to make sure that I shared this option with you, because I know some of you have really great tech teams and volunteers, and you might want something more custom. I think this is the way to go. In terms of the lesson itself, it would be very similar to that flipped classroom model where students do some type of entrance-exit ticket, focus on learning in the home before getting to class, and then your discussions actually focus on things they have questions about. Here is a quick recap of the different options. So with both options, we're recommending you still use your regular teacher and student materials. I think it's really good for students to have kind of that workbook they can go back to, they can write their own questions and answers, and you would have a weekly virtual check-in with all of the options just to keep those relationships strong. I know as a teacher for myself and our pastor, one of the most important parts of confirmation is the relationships we form with the kids. And so maintaining those even in a virtual environment is going to be really important. Options 2 and 3 do require a little bit more family buy-in. So just knowing your family's at your church, you'll have to make that decision. And then option 3 is the one, it is a higher tech investment, so to speak, but it is easily customizable for your church's needs. Last thing I have here is a recap of all the links and resources we used. I'll also have these all linked in the comments of this video, so you can just access them that way. To purchase the workbooks, just go to cph.org/confirmation. It'll give you all the options for confirmations and catechism. There are the links for your digital bonus resources, and then the catechism resources are also linked there. If you have any questions or if you'd like a different type of follow-up video, please do email me. I'm always happy to help. Confirmation is one of my personal joys in life. It's something I work forward to helping with every week at my church, and I want to help you as much as possible too. And if you have questions about what you can share online that I didn't cover in this video, please just feel free to email our copyrights department directly. They have been very helpful throughout this whole kind of pandemic, and we'll work with you as much as we can to make sure that your kids and students have the materials that they need in order to have a digital confirmation class. So thanks for joining me today, guys. I know it was a lot of information in a little time span, but I really look forward to hearing from you and digging deeper into this as we go through the fall. Thanks, everybody, and blessings on your confirmation.